My mother is still a little confused about what my job is, right? She's very proud of me and she knows I'm very good at it, but she doesn't always know what I do. And probably about 60% of my job is kissing up to foundation presidents, right? And I tell every foundation president that she is my favorite, and sometimes I am telling the truth. This may be one of those moments. So one of the very first partners in the ArtPlace partnership was the McKnight Foundation from Minnesota. And who in the room has a relationship with the McKnight Foundation of some sort? Woo! And the thing that they did, that if I had to make the case for why McKnight was my favorite foundation partner, is ArtPlace's investment from McKnight actually comes from 3 different programs within the foundation. So their arts and culture team, their regions and community team, and their rural team all see value in the work that is happening in this room, and that is exactly the kind of change that we're trying to engender in philanthropy and across the world. So it is with humor and humility and gratitude that I would love to turn the stage over to the McKnight president, Kate Wolford. Please make her feel welcome.
Thank you. I came up here in the hopes that I could see all of you, but I am blinded, so I really can't. So thanks, Jamie. And in fact, I was going to start out with that same anecdote. It is true, just about every email I get from Jamie starts with, "You are my favorite foundation president." And then kind of by the end acknowledges he does say that to every foundation president. So Jamie, in that same spirit, this is absolutely the best ArtPlace Summit I have ever been to. And the fact that it is my first and only ArtPlace Summit does not detract in any way from the veracity of the first comment. It really has been a pleasure to be here and really a privilege because I've been hearing about these summits and really wanted to experience it for myself. And I hope that all of you, like me, will be carrying away a couple of things. One is new ideas and inspiration. Not only from the folks who were up here in front, and amazing plenaries, including the one this morning, which was just really awesome, but also from all the conversations with just people in the room and out in the hallways. I think the second thing is actually that, the relationships that are established here or have been rekindled from earlier years, and that will allow us to call this not just a moment in time, but really take those relationships and connections out there that can continue to inform and inspire us in the practice and place in which we each find ourselves. And then a third thing that I would like to lift up is the seminars. And I really want to thank Aspen and ArtPlace. That's the first time I've been in that kind of setting. And I just really appreciated the group I was with as we kind of really engaged together with those texts and narratives around home and belonging and healing. And it created sort of this mini community within this broader community. So I think all of those things are things that I will take away. The last one that I would mention, and I really think about this from kind of my work in my adopted home state of Minnesota, but also nationally, and that is we are in such a tumultuous time in which there are so many fissures and division lines, often sown with words of fear and hate, and many of those cut across geography of rural, suburban, urban. And this may not be unique, but I really do think the community, the ArtPlace family that has been established from the largest metropolises to some of the smallest towns, and all the connectivity that happens across that is really a treasured civic infrastructure for our nation at this time and juncture in our democracy. So I really want to lift that up. I think that's a real special gift that ArtPlace is bringing to our civic conversation and infrastructure. So before I say anything else, I would like to really call out the leadership of the ArtPlace staff, Jamie and his staff, and ask them just to stand again so we can acknowledge and thank them. So now we're going to have a closing plenary led by an individual artist. So I would like to just say a word from the McKnight perspective about the role of artists. We talk a lot about the art and culture sector, But for us, that centrality of the artist is really important to uphold and uplift. My colleague, Vicki Benson, has this wonderful piece of newsprint in her office wall, and it's strategically positioned so you can't walk by without seeing it, that says in handwritten notes, artists are essential. They are a must-have, not a nice-to-have. They are central, not peripheral. And that really drives our sense that our home state will really thrive when its artists thrive. And so we really want to lift up that work of individual artists, and I see it in our state through some of the ArtPlace sponsored projects. Ashley Hansen with the Southwest Minnesota Housing Partnership. I know Shania's here with the Water Bar. I lift up the work of Springboard for the Arts, which is a statewide gem, but increasingly a national treasure, and so many more that are in the room that I can't even name. But we're really proud that that is one of the contributions that we provide into this movement, is just the work of all my colleagues in that state. We're also really excited, and I want to lift this up, that McKnight is going to help sponsor a group of Native Nation and Minnesota individual artist leaders to the upcoming One Water Summit. And I think that's a really wonderful reflection, again, of some of the connective tissue that is developed through ArtPlace, between ArtPlace and the U.S. Water Alliance. And there are just so many examples of that is really creating, again, this incredible national infrastructure. So with that, thinking about the role of the individual artist, I'm really honored, and now I'm going to use my notes because I want to make sure I capture some of these great comments about our final speaker. Leslie Kimiko Ward has an incredible bio, but what I love is how she describes herself, and these are some of the words: a social artist, a movement specialist, a writer, a shepherd who lives between Alaska and Oregon. Leslie really understands and can bridge between the traditional knowledge and wisdom of her elders and the innovation that is very much the pathway that she herself is forging through her work. ArtPlace came to know Leslie through the McKnight Foundation, which was engaged with some of the work that Leslie was doing with Native youth around suicide prevention in Alaskan villages. Since then, she's worked with ArtPlace in a number of ways, and today she has been asked to help kind of bring this all to a close and take what all these thoughts and ideas and emotions that are swirling around in our head, our hearts, and our soul, and bring it on home. So please join me in welcoming Leslie Kimiko Ward to the stage.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Leslie Kimiko Ward. I am the daughter of Richard and Linda Ward, the granddaughter of the late James and Catherine Ward, and the granddaughter of the spry and feisty Kenji and Kazue Yaguchi. I'm curious, kind of voraciously, and creative, and because of these two things, I've been often made a home and to be made to feel like I belong inside of the arts community, inside of arts-inspired and arts-informed spaces. Increasingly, I've been made to feel like I have a home in the public sector, and that's a large part and thanks to the work of ArtPlace. Thank you so much, Javier. Thank you, Lila, wherever you are. Are you in here, Lila? I'll talk to you later. And I've been made increasingly to feel like I have a home in this space as well. And speaking from an individual artist perspective, y'all are asking a lot of artists. You are asking a lot of children. You are asking a lot of people around you. When I got the call to do this talk, I did what I have learned to do. Thank you, ArtPlace, for these tools. Thank you, Javier, for these tools. I sought diverse counsel, which meant I made phone calls, I sent emails, I did Facebook polls, I had meals with people. I've been asking a lot of you in the room and people who are working here and people on the street since I've been here the same question, which is, hey, riff on healing. What's interesting to you about healing? And or if you had this opportunity, what would you want people to know? And then I sat back and I watched the results kind of ping back to me. And I put on my little analyst hat, which I'm learning to do because I think the research is also important, and I looked for trends were interesting, patterns were interesting, through lines were interesting, and outliers were fascinating. And the results were not even subtle. Not even a little. Now, that's not terribly scientific because this is my circle of people, but it's getting larger all the time because I'm talking to folks, and the results were that if you assumed a greater level of responsibility, by and large, the more responsibility you assumed in your life, whether that be subjective or objective, the more you thought you were in charge of more things, people, wealth, power, systems, whatever it was, the more likely your answer was to have something to do about the disconnect between self-care and care for others. There was something about, or some shame, or some wisdom that you had gained from going out into private space and healing quietly from the things that you're carrying around that you brought into this room, that you have with you all the time. And y'all have a lot of stuff, and I have been doing lots of baths and smudging and sitting by the river and like just trying to not take it on. I love you all. And there's a lot of stuff in this room. And for some people, those broken places were shameful secrets. I've learned the term sunken places this time around. I never heard this term. I've learned the term social practice artist. There's all this language that I'm starting to get to figure out what this is that I'm feeling, to make sense of it. And as an artist, I take it all in and I try and make sense of it in some artistic way. There was an exception to this trend, and the exception came from my wonderful friends, and I know this is being Facebook Live, so a huge shout out to Liz Sunnyboy Elder and Pat, Frank, Laura Castaneda, the whole team of Returning to Harmony, cross-tribal elders and healers working up in Alaska, doing big, important, long-range work, digging in with communities in ways that felt so real. They had something to say that was counterpoint to this feeling of how can I take care of myself when I have all this ish to do? And they have a principle that they use and I'm using and I'm learning to use more and more, which is we must first be well before we can begin to do the work of the people. Now, that doesn't mean that we must be without trauma. That does not mean we must be without hardship. That does not mean we must be the privileged few who have had a wonderful life with nothing going on that's terrible, so that we can start to do the work of the people. What do you need? No, I have no idea what you need, because I have no idea. I haven't been on my own journey. I haven't dug into my own cracks. There's a pottery aesthetic, a Japanese aesthetic that I'm learning about. I'm digging into my Japanese culture to find out more, to bring more to the table to these conversations, because when I come to the conversations and the thoughts are big, I need to go back in and do the work to find out how I can relate. So I dug into my Japanese culture, and we have an aesthetic called kintsugi. It's the act of putting gold into the cracks of the shards of pottery to show that something it's beautiful because it's been weathered. But not because it's just been weathered and cracked. It's not a broken pot on display, although that in itself, objectively could be considered beautiful. But there is tending to those cracks. Getting ready to do the speech today, I went down to the river, and I brought my sage, and the river is muddy. And there are things floating in it, and I had to walk through exhaust from those two lovely steamboats, and there are signs everywhere that say, don't touch the water, because sewage and things. And I look in this cloudy water and I think, gosh, what have we done? There can't be anything living in this water. And then a fish came up to the surface and just hung out with me for a while. And I cried and I cried and I cried for this fish in this water. Does the fish know what the water that it's in? Maybe, maybe not. We have all these metaphors for fishes and waters and whether or not the fish knows it's in water. I hear it all the time. But I can see the water and I can see the things floating and the jet ski coming by and I'm like, ah. Sometimes in these spaces, I feel like that as an artist. Sometimes in these spaces, I feel like that as a human being. I feel like a fish swimming through shit. So what do we do? I started asking, what do we do? What does it mean to be well? What is wellness for you? I'm gonna ask you this, inside of each of you, I'm not gonna ask you this, I'm gonna tell you this, I'm gonna reflect this back to you. Inside of each of you, and some of you, it's in like full glory. There is this fish inside you that is swimming upstream like nobody's business. And you know the people who are doing that because you can sit next to them and you can feel the power of what that feels like to be sitting next to that fish who like has it. That jet ski comes by, that fish is like, what's over there? What's that? What are you doing? You have a fish. What color is your river? What does your river look like? Are you tending to it? Are you tending to it first? Because this is the piece. We must first be well before we can do the work of the people. Because I'm a movement artist, once upon a time and in all incarnations, I want to make sure that this is embodied knowledge in you, so you can use it and you can take it and do things with it. Think of a place where you have a crack. You don't have to share it with anybody. This is for you. Think of one of your own broken places or sunken places. If you don't have them, that's interesting. Come see me after. But think of where that is in you. Think of the first one that comes to your mind, because it's probably important. The first one that comes to your mind might have been there for a long time. You might have been like getting it off your leg. You're welcome. Movement artist. Dance degree. That's what a dance degree will get you right there. You may have been dealing with it for a long time. I want you to think about it. And I want you to use your hands and make it. How big is it? How wide is it? What does it feel like? How heavy is it? I'm going to give you a second. I'm going to turn around. I'm not going to look. When I turn back around, though, I want to see some embodied cracks. Yeah? Okay. You've got 10 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. I want you to take it, whatever it is. Hold it. Sit with it. Be with it. It's still there. We're not going to fix it. I'm not going to fix it today. That's what you're asking us to do, P.S., as artists, is to fix this for you, and I won't. It is yours. You can keep it. But sit with it. You know what it needs. I don't know what it needs. You know what it needs. And if you tend to it first, then I don't have to do it. I don't have to do it. And in the spirit of this, you're sharing this. Whatever this is that you just held, you are sharing it with me, with the people around you. Why? Because you're so incredibly generous, all of you. Everyone has been so generous with your time, with your attention, with your space. We're sharing it. You're sharing that too. You are also sharing something else, whatever it is that you came to share, but it might not be as loud as your crack, as your broken place. So if there's something else you want to share and you're not tending to this, I might not be able to hear you. I might not be able to reach you. I might not be able to connect with you because this is so loud. So quiet this and then do the work. We must first be well before we can begin to do the work of the people. Tend to your rivers. Find your little fish that's swimming inside. That fish sat with me for a while. I was so amazed. It just swam there. I don't know what floated by. It was not pretty. It left for a second, and I thought maybe it wasn't a fish. Maybe it was just a log. You know, I did that thing. I started to process justify my mind, my wheel started spinning. Maybe it wasn't a fish. And then it came back up. And then it bubbled, and then it waggled its little fins, and I was like, oh, that's a fish. It really is there. And so I took it into my heart, and I'm sharing it with you. And because I'm sharing it with you, and because I took it into my heart, and because I'm looking around, now I can see the fish reflected in all of you. When you look at your communities, when you look at your organizations, when you look at your families, your friend groups, your pockets of the system that you are in charge of, or that you think you're in charge of, because you're not, when you look at those pockets of the system, what you see is interesting. What you see is based on your ability to connect with what it is that's out there. There's a lot of things to see. When I first came to ArtPlace, I cried a lot because I would go home, there was so much coming at me. Plenaries, workshops, fiscal reports, things I'd never heard of before. As an artist making dances, I had never seen some of these terms, and I felt like I was trying to learn a foreign language at the same time I was supposed to speak a foreign language and understand a foreign language and have an opinion about this thing that's in a language that's completely foreign to me. And I got the tools to do it, but I also dug in and cried a lot. I have a story about putting all of by the way, I've been on the panel cheering a lot of you on for a while, putting all of my pieces of paper in because I need to feel things, I'm tactile. So I'd printed out the 80 finalists one year and I'd put them all around in my living room. And all I could do that day after a cry for a while was move papers from one group to the next, saying, I think this one goes with this one. I think this one goes with this one. And then I went to bed. And then I woke up the next morning and the papers were everywhere. And I was like, animal? Wind? I figured it was probably because the project was haunted, and of course, that makes so much sense. And but my dad and my girlfriend were not having it. They were like, no, there's really got to be a reason. And at one point, my dad sat in the living room and he looked down and he just started laughing because the Roomba had come in and done this with everything. So sometimes your life, you get thrown Roombas. Sometimes Roombas come in and they do this to your life. What do you do after that happens? What do you do on the way to that happening? Sometimes stuff gets hard too. We're dealing with stuff. I've talked to people here. Everybody has a story. Everybody's dealing with their own stuff. Yeah, everybody has their own cracks. And if I have them and I can relate to them in you and I can connect with you and I can ground myself in what I know and I can trust the teachings that I have and I can listen to nature and my ancestors and the voices that are all around me all the time, and I can reflect back and get quiet and shush for a minute and trust that that's going to give me what I need, maybe I have a shot. Maybe I have a shot. It's not a guarantee. It doesn't work every time. But I know that I see, because I feel it, people working through grief, people working through trauma, people ignoring grief, people ignoring trauma, and then doing this work. And then looking at their communities and looking for the things that they want to fix. If you have a broken place and that broken place is this big and it's in your way, guess what? That's what you're going to see too. You're going to see it in your communities and you're going to work to fix it out here. And I'm going to ask you at some point, how's that working for you? How is that working for you? Because I know for me, I was like, perfect, I've got this. I was an artist in suicide prevention on accident because I was in a village and I was teaching a residency and there was a death in the village, and suddenly teaching Michael Jackson's Thriller didn't seem like the right thing to do. And so I just gathered the kids in the school and started folding origami cranes. And I said, okay, we're just gonna fold these cranes because that's what I knew to do, right? Let's just do something with our hands. And then I'm gonna share it on Facebook, and we're gonna fold cranes together. And I shared it out. And friends, I said, fold cranes with us in solidarity. We're having a tough time. We're gonna try and fold 1,000 cranes. And we did in 4 days. And our Facebook page went a little accidentally viral, global, on a small scale, not huge, but it reached out. And then I went back to Anchorage. I was just there to teach dancing and drumming. And I went back to Anchorage, and now I am the poster child for suicide prevention in the Native communities in Alaska with no mental health training, with no deep roots, no family. I had not done my own work. And I did that for a year. And out of all the corners of the woodwork, because it is a problem, it is a huge crack, and I stumbled right into it. And I was in this space, and at the grocery store, people said, I saw your outro on the news. Because of course, cranes, children, colors, arts, we fixed it. Suicide's never a problem ever again. Nice, neat bow, here you go. Woo, fantastic. Of course, inspirational, right? So now out of the woodwork at the grocery store comes everybody's suicide stories. In my email comes all the spaces where suicide has touched somebody's life. Yeah, on the street. I started buying my groceries in the middle of the night. I started ordering my meals and then going home and eating them with all my blinds drawn. And then a year later, I left Alaska and I started farming. I said, thank you for this full-time job at the university, but you can keep your health insurance and you can keep your retirement. I'm going to go farm sheep in Oregon, and that's what I did with my dad. And it took me about 5 years to work through enough of that to break for real. Because I didn't break then, because I can't. When I left Alaska, I got emails that said, you can't go. If you leave, people will die. That was an email that was sent to me. That is sometimes what is being asked of artists. Fix this for me, for us. Make something so great. And we get the problem. We feel that it's a problem. Of course we want to help, and we will try, and we will try, and we will try. But it took me going through that experience, digging in the dirt, shoveling a lot of crap, which is what my job looks like sometimes for real and figuratively, and then breaking, completely breaking, before I thought there has to be a better way. There's gotta be. We must first be well before we can do the work of the people. I started hearing these other tools from the connections and the real friends that I had made and the real relationships that I had built with my friends up in Alaska. This is their message. They were so useful. They were so helpful. There's another crack that I felt here. We've alluded to it. It's not just the ones inside of ourselves, but it's the willingness to see each other. There's a disconnect that has been alluded to here of not knowing how to work with Indigenous people, of not knowing how to connect with Indigenous people. Trying to find somebody to come here at the beginning of the session was difficult because the people have been moved from here. And who are we to expect them to show up? Are they going to fix us? Are the artists going to fix us? Are the children going to fix us? Are the people who are struggling through things, are the people who aren't struggling and who are innocent, are they the ones that are supposed to fix us? Tend to yourself first. So I'm tending. I lit some sage by the water. I thanked the fish for giving me this talk, because I didn't know what I was going to say when I came up here. But I have been doing the work. I have been getting quiet. I have been grounding. I have been finding my ancestors. I have been connecting to the water. I have been asking so many of you and so many of the other people, what is it that you want everyone to know? We must first be well before we can begin to do the work of the people. So in a spirit of wellness, I'd like to invite my friend Nick up here. Where is my friend Nick? There he is. dun, dun, dun. Nick's not going to save you either. Is it on? It is.
Stugoja ubonayali. Munga bonaye yova yehegi bane. Chahojif ka gachame kojirowe. Amelegere ojaga runueshin. Gachelge ipuchirowe. My real name is Gachemikoji, but I think everybody outside of my people know me as Nick. So we have a joke going on between my family back home. We say that's my government name, Nick. But I'm the son of a Panther clan. And when I'm up here in front of you, and the words that are coming out of my mouth, I'm just an extension of my people and where I'm coming from. So first, I want to thank Leslie for using the position that she's in to bring an Indigenous person up here and using her consciousness to realize that that's an important thing to do. Also, I heard that ArtPlace was looking for an Indigenous person to bring up here that's from this area, but they weren't able to find anybody, and that's because they were all removed from here. And so, just being a Muskogee person coming from that place, I want to take a moment to acknowledge the people that were here, the Chickasaw, Yuchi, Cherokee people of this land. And actually, our people, this was a traveling grounds for the Muskogee people at one point, and there were ceremonies held here in this region. So just real quickly, I'll sing a song. This song says, however, wherever you go, you pray for me and I'll pray for you.
Do you mind if I dance while you sing?
Okay. Istaman istomen fulachkis animi kozabatskin aniu chimemi kozabashlis iskinagalgi toyaskan Momen kamagis Istamen stomen koyatskat Animi kozabalis Jimimi kozabalis Mikoza balgi doyatskat Momes komagis. Mado, thank you.
Thank you. I was like, where's Jamie Hand? Where's Jamie Hand? It's my 10-minute sign. Perfect. So we didn't come up here to give you a show. Here's what I'm going to ask you to do. And you know the wave, right? You know how to do the wave. It's a challenge. Because I want to see if you, no, I don't want to see. It's not a test. I want to give you a tool that I know that you have already in you and give you permission to use it. Here's how I know you have it. How many of you have driven a rental car before or gotten into a car you don't recognize and driven it around? Is there anybody who hasn't? Okay, my next thing was if you used a pencil, which is also fine, or a pen. So if you've done this, you already have this skill, and the skill is proprioception. It's the ability to just expand your awareness of yourself to be bigger than you are, right? So I'm in a Cadillac, it's bigger than if I'm in a little smart car. So I know that you have it. So I'm gonna ask you to use it, because the thing that I hear, this disconnect between self-care and care for others that's so hard for people, is not because you're doing the wrong thing. It's because like, oh, if I take care of myself first, it's selfish, it's a bad thing. That's understandable why you would feel that way, and it's only because you've defined self artificially. You have put a bubble around yourself and decided that it extends to the end of my skin, to the end of my clothes, to the end of my family, my community. You've defined it in this way that you feel like if I take care of this first, then I'm doing a disservice to this out here. And I'm just saying expand your notion of self, the same way you do when you use a pencil or drive a car. Expand your notion of self to include each other, the ground you stand on, everybody who's come before you, 7 generations forward and backwards through time. All the stories of this place. I dug into the history of the Galt House Hotel and found out in this room, I do believe the Guinness Book of World Record was set of the most fairies gathered in one space at one time last year. There's all kinds of stories happening here all the time. The stories are multitudinous. We are not, if you get caught in thinking we're two-dimensional beings or we're three-dimensional beings, you have missed the point. We are multidimensional all the time. We are multidimensional beings all the time. So I'm going to ask you to expand your awareness just past the point where you have been before. I'm not asking you to take all of the everything in and channel it in a way that you're not ready for. I don't want you to hurt yourself. I just want you to expand your awareness a little bit bigger than you have before. So we're going to do that physically with the skill of proprioception. So with our eyes closed in just a minute, I'm going to ask Jamie Bennett over here to start a wave. All you have to do is this, Jamie. He's got it. Look, he's pro. He's going to do that. With your eyes closed, I want to see the wave. Now, this is not a test. I look out in the river, there's not one wave in the water, right? So don't feel like you have to get the right wave. You're not, I mean, like if you do feel like that, then surfing is maybe a good place for you, but this is not that. So all I'm gonna ask in just a second is that you close your eyes. Jamie will start us off, and I will let you open your eyes when I feel like the wave has passed. Participate in this as an exercise to validate that you have this ability inherent in you. Whenever you put your hands up and your hands down is the right time, period. If you're telling yourself it's not the right time, that's you, not me. There's a crack. Hey, maybe you can tend to it. A little gold, good as new. All right, so let's go ahead and close our eyes. Oh, that was amazing. I owe $5 to whoever that was. Okay, eyes are closed. Bling. Whenever you're ready, Mr. Bennett. Go ahead and let your eyes open. Oh, I wish you could have seen that. It was so good. It was so good. It was so authentic. If you were closing your eyes in that moment, you were thinking, I can't feel it, I can't feel it, I can't feel it. Oh my gosh, when's it coming to me? Oh my gosh, yeah, I mean, understandable. Yeah. And pay attention to that. That piece that says, I can't do it, I can't do it, I can't do it. Maybe it shows up other places. I don't know. Just look and see if you can find it. I'm going to try one more thing. And I'm going to give you a hint, too. Proprioception is really useful with contact. So if you want to touch the chair or the clothing or invite someone next to you to get a little closer so that you can actually feel when they're moving, it's like cheating. With our eyes open, but no definitive leader, I'm just going to say whenever you're ready. I don't want to wave. I want unison. I want all at once. But that means you have to wait until everybody's ready. That means you have to tend to yourself first. Am I ready? Because if you're not ready, get ready. Whatever it is you need to do to get ready. And whenever you are ready, pick them up and put them down. Good, pause. Unison. I want everyone in this room to do this at the same time, and I'm holding you to it. We're not leaving this room until this happens. How many more minutes do I have? You have 2 minutes to figure this out. All right. So what do you need to do? Whenever you're ready, up and down. Close. Thank you to the leaders who are like, I've got this. With me. Thank you to the followers who are like, we're doing this? All right. That's why it was close. And you've been like stewing together, and you've been working together, and it's working, almost. Now, I'm gonna call that a C-. You're welcome. You have A work in you. A work is in you. A+ work, blow my socks off work is in you. I know because I've been talking to you, so you cannot fool me with the fact that this is not possible. This is the most motivated, joyful space that I have inhabited in a while. You are some of the most inspirational. To be here in front of you is ridiculous. When I got this call, I squealed into a pillow so I would not wake my neighbors. I put you on mute, Adam, so you did not hear that. And then I danced around my living room, and then I bragged to all my friends that I was going to be Jamie Bennett's understudy. So I know you have it in you because you inspire me. I have been cheering you on from behind the scenes. I've been coming to these sessions, not able to tell you that I'm on the panel, not able to tell you how much I love your project, unable to tell you all these things, which I can tell you right now, I love your work. I love your work. I love what you're doing. I love who you are. I love how you're expressing yourself in the world. So if you're holding on to your broken place and you're thinking that you're not you're doing it all wrong, that is not true. You are doing it all right. Here's one more skill that's going to help you keep doing what you're doing. Time's up, says Jamie. When you're ready, hands up, hands down. Listen to each other. Tend to yourself first. Listen to those around you. When you're ready, hands up, hands down. Together. Down. I'll do it with you. I won't do it for you. But thank you. Expand your car to include every person in the room. Expand your car to include your ancestors. Expand your car to include the land you're standing on, people who are coming after you, and everyone who got you here. and when we're ready, and not a second before. We are doing this together. Y'all don't want me to go along? Okay.
Thank you.
Now they're all up together. Now
All is
you get
one.
it.
All is one. So here, just stand with me. I
Okay,
get
I'm
lonely.
standing.
So first, join us in especially thanking Nick and the members of the Muskogee Nation for what he brought over here. And then Kate had said that Leslie was going to sort of bring us to a close, but I think sort of thinking about kintsugi and thinking about cracks, I really think you've brought us to an open. So I want to thank you for having brought us to an open.
Thank you.
Just sort of three thoughts that I'll leave you with. We began Monday night talking and sort of sitting for a moment in the language of recovery. And as we're leaving tonight, I invite any of us who would like to think about moving from that to the language of revolution. And so I will quote Angela Davis, who said, "I'm no longer accepting the things I cannot change. I'm changing the things I cannot accept." So think about carrying that home. I'm leaving here full. I'm leaving here with business cards. I'm leaving here with notes. I'm leaving here with things to do. So I'd also invite you to carry Leonard Bernstein with you, who said to achieve great things, only two things are needed: a plan and not quite enough time. And then finally, since we've come to the end of this road together, I have to leave us with the words and say, still, I can't let go. It's unnatural. You belong to me. I belong to you. Thank you very much.